Good afternoon, everyone. Running bang on time. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the end of financial year. We should say that because we're accountants. 28th of June, we got till Friday, and then we're into a new one. So hopefully everyone's on top of what they need to do between now and then. And thanks for making the time and joining us for the hour or so today. For those of you that don't know us, if you haven't joined us before, my name's Joe Seckel, and this is my partner, Tamara Daniel. We do work with clients in our advisory area of PTP, along with a couple other team members as well. And today we're going to be talking about thriving together and maximising performance in a supportive culture. We've been having a few conversations with clients and in our growth hub recently about some challenges, I suppose, internally within their businesses and what they're hearing from other people as well. And I suppose we see a lot of it because we deal with a lot of different businesses, and we just wanted to take you through, I suppose, some of the things that we see in the market, and also 4 strategies that hopefully can help you. Even if you just implement one of them, will help make things a little bit clearer, a little bit more defined internally, make things a bit more comfortable and efficient. So we'll run through that now. It should take us about an hour. If you've got any questions, I'll run through the housekeeping, but if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box up in the top right. It should be open on your screen, but it's just the 2 little talk boxes up in the top right. If it's not, feel free to put them in at any time through the presentation. We'll have question time at the end for some extra questions, but if you would like to ask questions on the way through, we will see them and we will try to answer them if they fit in at that point in time. If you lose connection, just feel free to hit refresh. It should, being an online platform, it should just refresh and come back in automatically. If you have any trouble, just call the office and they'll seek to help you and get you back in again. But it shouldn't be a problem there. And you will receive an email shortly after with a copy of the session recording. That's an automated thing from Demio. You'll also receive a follow-up email from us with anything that we run through and any resources or things that we're going to send out on top of that as well, following on from that. All right. So the agenda, how to get the most out of the session. We're just going to run through. We're going to do that. We do it at the start of every webinar session. For those that are just joining us, I suppose just some tips on how to get the most out of this, because again, you're giving up an hour of your time to listen to us. So we'd like you to get some value from it and to take some real benefit out of it and to put it into place in your business. So we're going to run through that. What are the staff issues and what are the symptoms? What do we see around that? Some performance strategies to implement. So there's the 4 strategies that we were talking about earlier on. What creates a good culture? What to do if things go wrong? So what are the things you can do immediately? And they'll refer back to some of those strategies to help out within your business and swing things around or slow challenges down or turn it around. So then we're going to do a case study of a client that we've used all 4 of these things with, and I suppose we're going to show you the difference that's made in that business, both I suppose within the culture and the soft part of the business, but also the hard numbers. It's made some really significant differences there. So who are PTP? We'll just run through this very quickly. We are here, so that we are here, marker on the PTP Advisory. That's what we're talking about today. So we've got 4 key parts of our business. Bookmates is our bookkeeping and data entry business. So that ensures data accuracy and timeliness. So that's helping people getting information from their business into software. PTP Tax and Compliance minimises tax and protects assets. So that's more the tax compliance. Advisory, increased profit and choice. So we work with clients to help get what they're looking for from their business. And then PTP Wealth helps take some of those profits and the things that we're making within the business and invest and grow for the future. So it's an end-to-end service. As I said, we're discussing the advisory stuff today. So we're looking at it through the lens of increasing profit and choice and enjoyment in your business. All right, tips to maximise your return from the session. So as much as possible, be open to new things and revisiting things that you may have heard in the past. So keep in mind that, yes, we all hear a lot of this stuff over and over again, but this may be the time, and stay open to the fact this may be the time that it actually hits home and makes sense to you. Don't close off as soon as you hear something and think, or try as much not to as you possibly can, because we have a tendency to do that as humans. Don't think I've heard all this before. I'll wait for the next thing. really think through each of the points we're going to run through, and try to find a way to, I suppose, conceptualize it within your business or what you're seeing. Listen to and note your thoughts and reactions. So they're not positive or negative, they just are. If you know how you react to certain things, you're more likely to be able to identify blind spots and self-limiting beliefs. So they're all around, and a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about today is, I suppose, creating clarity. And that's the key thing, is being able to have these conversations and communicate, because that's how we create clarity and consistency in our business. Now, if we have blind spots and self-limiting beliefs, those things, by the nature of them, will mean that we don't have some of those conversations or do some of that communication. So just note down if something really sticks out to you, and it's either a sore point or that's a really big takeaway, make sure you note it down. You have to note down everything. You're going to get a copy of the presentation. So all this stuff will be in there. Commit to trying at least one concept or action. This is something we're big on. We talk to clients about all the time. Don't try and do everything. Some people will write down 20 things out of this webinar, and then they'll try and do 20 things. Well, we're all busy. We understand that it's very difficult to just do one thing. So if we can just take one concept or action, it's going to make the most difference. And we're going to ask you that at the end, what one of the 4 things you think you can utilize. Just try and do that one thing. Because if we take one thing out and improve it, that's a big step forward. Ask your questions. Utilize the fact that most people will not ask a question, even if they have one. So you're a small group, relatively small group of people attending our webinar. You've got access to Tam and myself. Feel free to ask the questions. There's no silly questions. People are probably thinking the same thing you are. So share it amongst the group here, and we're happy to provide those answers and follow up as well. So please ask your question. Set yourself an accountability action. We call it the magic step, to ensure that you've done something with the information you learned. So email us, talk to your business partner, talk to your husband or wife, talk to your senior people in your team, and commit to doing something by a certain time. If we know that if we do that, we're more likely to go and do that action if we've got someone that's holding us accountable to that. So please do that, even if it's just the next step of something. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but just keep it moving so it doesn't drop off our radar.
Beautiful. Thanks everyone for coming today. So what do Joe and I generally see in businesses? So we see a lot of businesses walking this tightrope. So trying to get the most out of your team, but also trying to build a really good culture. We see a lot of businesses that have more complexity with and difficulty dealing with family businesses, or family in business together, or friends that you employ within your business. It's always harder to kind of deal with some issues when you've got those personal relationships with these types of people. We see a lot of avoidance, so business owners avoiding tough or any conversations with staff about performance, particularly at the moment around the fact that it's really difficult to find staff. So a lot of people are just avoiding any conversations because we don't want to upset the staff member and potentially then lose them and be in a worse position. Rushing into conversations with a fixed agenda or trying to force an outcome. Lack of collaboration with staff. So there's no time or the inclination to work with the team and build something together. It's just more what the business owners want or feel is the right thing to do. And more focus on the negatives and what's not happening well, as opposed to maybe looking at those positives, what is working well within a business. And it's really difficult to try and find that, I suppose, the right balance between culture and performance. And so that's why we wanted to give you those 4 practical strategies today. So why do we have staff issues? So predominantly staff issues are bled out because there's a lack of direction of the business. People don't know what's happening. Lack of clarity around their job roles. So their staff members themselves don't understand what they need to be doing. Misalignment of expectations between the owner and the staff. So it hasn't been communicated what is expected, or maybe the staff members misunderstood that. Poor communication across the board. Internal processes lacking. So there might be grey areas, or it might not be clearly defined processes. So there might be different ways of doing things. One business owner might have a preference to do it that way, but the staff member may not like to do it that way or something like that. Staff personal lives interfere with their work life, family friend dynamics, and just, not communicating. So not just having poor communication, but just no communicating because of, that the fear factor. So identifying issues and symptoms. So some of the symptoms that we see in businesses from having staff issues, before you even know sometimes that you have a staff issue, there'll be low productivity output with staff, lack of care or attention to detail, mistakes happening, staff only focusing on themselves and not looking at the bigger picture of the business, profit and loss bleeding in certain areas, or a decline in profitability, and nitpicking issues and talking amongst the staff group. So here's our bit of a tightrope. So up one end of the spectrum, we've got a bit of a hippie. Joe and I we're trying to put this in a visual the other night. So we've got someone who is really good at being friendly with the staff, creating a really good culture, and then you've got Mr. Cranky Pants up the other end with a sad face that just does not care about the culture, just wants performance. We're saying that neither end of the spectrum is where you want to be. You want to be somewhere in the middle, and we want to try and help you have your cake and eat it too. Now, one thing to kind of mention is that it's really difficult to try and achieve this balance. And sometimes you are, as a business owner, going to have to move up or down this scale, depending on what's required at the time, the type of business that you have, some of the issues that you might be having. So if you are having to go to one end or the other of this scale, that's not a bad thing. It's just that predominantly, majority of the time, you want to try and be in the middle and create this balance between culture and performance.
I think that's the key thing, Tam, is that we're not, we're not suggesting that it's going to be stationary. It's situational. It's going to be dependent on, what needs to happen at that point in time. There'll be times when being at the hippie end is appropriate, and you're building that. You're really focusing on the personal side, the human side of things, as Jeff likes to call it. We like to call it. The other side of it is probably more the data and the cold hard facts. And I suppose being a bit more blunt about that sort of thing. Now, there'll be times when that's appropriate as well. You wouldn't like to be at the rude end of blunt, but there'll be times where being very clear and precise and being quite clear and upfront about some of the things you need to talk about will be appropriate as well. But more than likely, you're going to have, we're all human beings. So you're going to require conversations at either end of the spectrum, not on a week-to-week basis, but on an hour, minute-to-minute, day-to-day basis. So this is why it's so difficult to lead a team of people, is because it's not a here's your guidelines and your rule book, go and do that. It's very, very different, and it's having to make judgment calls and just understand the situation you're sitting in at a particular point in time.
Absolutely. All right, so we've got a poll that's going to come up on the screen. Amy, if you could run that poll for us. So what's your biggest staff communication challenge? So we've got 4 options there to choose from. So is it having hard conversations with your staff? Is it that you're too busy or don't have enough time? That things are okay as they are, or that you're scared of losing staff? So if you guys could make a selection there, so we can just get a bit of a gauge of who's attending what, where everyone's sitting. Just give you a little minute to do that.
This is very interesting.
It is.
We have very, very few saying things are okay as they are. Yeah. Excellent. I think that's most of us answered. Okay. So having hard conversations with staff is the top one, unsurprisingly. Business is too busy or not enough time, perpetual challenge. That's the second biggest issue. The scared of losing staff one, as Tam said before, is a very prominent one at the moment. I've had a conversation with a client this morning about this. They're walking on. I feel like I'm hearing the term walking on eggshells a lot at the
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
because they feel like if they lose that, they're not an ideal team member. They feel if they lose that person, that's going to put them in a worse position, perhaps. So I think that was what you mentioned before, Tam, was if you perhaps it would leave you in a better position, perhaps it wouldn't. But as far as just trying to get work done, it's very difficult to do that with less staff.
Absolutely.
But that having hard conversations with staff is that is a common one, and it's because we're in small businesses that we're not dealing with a corporate or a large group of people who we have nothing to do with. We work with each other all the time. We do have a relationship, often a close relationship with the people we work with, even if they're not our family or our friends. Or have to be family when we start in business. They're not our friends when they start with us. They become our friends. So it can be very difficult to do that. I suppose we won't go into this too much today, but I suppose it's also something we've spent a bit of time with one of our consultants talking about is the fact that conversations aren't hard or easy; they just are. And the reality is that that we can put our own spin on things, our own meanings around things, but we can either have a conversation with a team member and good or bad in our own mind and move the dial, or we can not. And quite often we choose the not, which is that's what we see, and it doesn't move either way. It doesn't give any opportunity for it to move. And I think it's all these things we're going to talk about today don't guarantee success. They don't guarantee anything. They just create opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think, I suppose when we avoid those conversations because of that, what ends up happening is it builds and it builds and it builds until we get super frustrated and something happens and then it becomes a really difficult conversation to have. So I think what some of the strategies that we're going to implement today or help explain to you so that you can implement is that you'll be having more conversations more regularly. So it actually becomes not a hard conversation at the end that's built up over time. It's just little conversations here and there. So definitely, really important to note that.
Absolutely. So what do we want to do? What a lot of these issues come down to? It's unclear expectations. That's what 99% of the things we see and the challenges. There are other things, obviously, and we went through a list of them before, and there's obviously more than that, well more than that, but they're the ones we see more than others. It often comes down to unclear expectations and either party being equally frustrated or more frustrated than the other, and they're not saying anything about it. So to resolve that, what do we need to do? We need to know. Starting point is knowing what we want from your business and your staff. If you don't have expectations, you're not clear on them, you can't communicate them. You can't document it. So that's got to be the starting point, is what are your expectations as a business owner? Document it, have it in writing so there's no uncertainty. With examples, with things, we'll run through that in a bit more detail. Communicate it so that they're aware, and then measure it to make sure it's all on track, and use data to help you stay between the lines. Okay, so business by design, might have heard that term. Our first strategy is get clear on what you want. Right? It may seem like a really simple thing. It's a great time of the year to do it. Start of a financial year, people are looking at forecasting. It's a great time to do it any time of year, really. But the common ones are now or new year, so January. So have a think about what you want it to look like for the next 12 months, 5 years, 10 years. Even if you've done this before, do it again. It doesn't hurt to do it. You may get to the same spot. You might get to a very different spot. So as a business owner, you need to determine what you want the business to look like from a culture, people, and performance point of view. Not every business needs to be shooting the lights out, high performance, super duper, flying along, growing at a million miles an hour. It doesn't need to be doing that. But you need to set what that looks like. There'll be some businesses that want that as well. So there are pros and cons associated with the choice that you have, and you've got to be comfortable with whatever that looks like. There's plenty of people that go into business to create more flexibility for themselves. As to the reality of that and what they achieve is a different matter, but that's why they do it, is to create some flexibility. Some go into it to make more. They feel like they can make more money doing it that way. They can create more opportunities. They can work with their family or friends. Whatever it is. But there's pros and cons to doing all of those things. There's pros and cons to going into business in the first place. Just being clear that you know what that looks like and that you're comfortable with it so you can communicate it. So mission, vision, and values infused through the business. Your management versus your leadership. Again, we could do a whole session on that in and of itself, but that's more about acting as a manager versus leading a team. They're two very different things. Having a plan and discussing it with an advisor like us, or senior team members within your business, or another person or mentor that you talk to, just to sense check it and to, I suppose, get another set of eyes and thoughts around that. So take the time to design your business and design what you want it to look like.
Absolutely. Strategy number 2 is to have clear roles and responsibilities. So if you don't document it so that your staff understand and have a visual of what's expected of them, then there's always going to be this miscommunication and unclear expectations. So staff need clarification on what's required of them. It should be written and clearly communicated with the staff in detail. So this isn't just a set and forget type of document that, when you onboard a new staff member, you give them, a job role, and then we don't ever look at it again. What we're saying is that this should be a living, breathing document in your business that that's evolving as the business and the role evolves. Use practical examples when explaining this to the staff. So, even talk about it maybe in your staff reviews, talk about it when you're running through things. As I said before, not set and forget. The requirements within that job role may change as, I suppose, as the business evolves. So, you might have a staff member at the start of a business that just keeps growing themselves, or their job role keeps having things added to it. So it's just something that is always evolving. The requirements on what you need to put in roles and responsibilities are going to be different for every business. So it's not something that, for a trade-based business or a manufacturing business is going to be the same. So just know that you can tailor it to your business, and make sure that you have very clear expectations written in them. So we recommend collaboration with staff on these. We don't want the staff to write them themselves, but we do want you to provide a framework to them with some non-negotiables and key things that are required from what you want out of your business and what you need from that role, and then get them to help build the rest. That will give them some accountability, and it will also have them buying in and owning their role a little bit better than if you just give them a document and say, this is what's expected of you. So it's trying to have that bit of teamwork in there. So if you do 80% of it, let them help build the 20%, and you're going to get a lot more, effort on their behalf to want to come to the table and actually perform their role better, because they feel that sense of purpose because they've helped design that a little bit themselves.
And they've just on that tab too, that they've got the opportunity at that point in time and you've got the opportunity to ask questions about what they're doing. This may well be at the start of a role. It should, again, we're starting to review it regularly, so it should be all the time on a probably a 6 monthly, 12 monthly. I was talking to a client the other day who were setting a job role for a CFO position in their business. It's quite a large business, and that CFO role will include a lot at the moment because it's still growing into a full-time CFO role. So there'll be more things in there that an ASX listed CFO wouldn't be doing around supply chain and that sort of stuff. But it fits that business, and that will change pretty quickly over the next sort of 6 to 12 months or 2 years. So that person's going to need to be talking. That business owner's going to need to be talking to that person all the way through that to understand, okay, what's expected and how's that going to fit in, and move it along at the pace it needs to move. So it'll often be quicker than what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We just wanted to highlight some key things that we think you should have in your roles and responsibilities, because quite often what we see is, again, it's that document that you onboard new staff with. So you have a position, title, job role, maybe who they report to, but that's generally about it. So obviously you've got to have job specific tasks in there. we want you to put some non-negotiables, so essential duties and responsibilities that you are that you need for the business to be able to operate the way that you want. KPIs are a big one, and quite often a lot of businesses don't have KPIs around different roles within their business, and it's a really big one for people to know where they're at. So we're suggesting, to get some KPIs in there, which we'll be discussing a little bit later, and obviously have the required skills and qualifications. So that's so that I suppose people can move up and down within your business at any point in time. So they're just some of the like the six key things that we think that you need within your job roles and responsibilities document. We also wanted to discuss some unwritten ground rules. So these are things that are not written down, but are a part of how you do things in your business. So often shortcuts or the easy way out. So be aware that people are going to follow these unwritten ground rules that you have, and not their roles or responsibilities document. So that's why it's really important, as Joe mentioned before, to lead by example in your business and try and break those unwritten ground rules, on a day-to-day basis, and then have little conversations if people are still doing that. And this is what I expect of you.
Yeah, and I think that's equally important. Quite often we talk about unwritten ground rules in terms of a negative, because they quite often are, because it's sort of like I do it this, the process this way, but I do it this way, and it's easier. So, and it gets the same outcome. So let's just do it that way. And put my hand up here, and any business owner should put their hand up. We are the worst offenders at that. So that's just how it is, because we built it, we understand it. We quite often feel like we can do that. We can quite often take shortcuts or do things a bit quicker. But again, taking that chance to lead by example and to provide the guidance in your action as much as you can to your team is very important. Now, the other unwritten ground rule, which is a positive side of things, really should be noted, is what we do, how we act, and what we do in a positive way. So if something happens and you've got something in your business where someone buys a new house, for instance, and you buy them some flowers for that, or you buy them a gift, or whatever it might look like, that shouldn't be something that's just sort of, that happens if you know about it. It's written within the culture and the standard practices of the business. That's what we do. So make that clear. Make something like that as clear as possible. Now, you're not going to be able to do absolutely everything across the board, but for things that you do all the time that are positive, don't just expect them to happen. Put them in place and make sure they happen. Remove all doubt.
Absolutely.
Communication rhythms. This is one of our little promo videos, Tam. We spoke about this. We're massive on these, and it's for a very good reason. They really create a great consistent structure for communicating, and they link to strategic and operational outcomes. So what it does is it takes away the thinking. What they're designed to do is to take away the thinking and ad hoc nature of communication, and in short, it creates the time and space to talk about and deal with key things in the business. So rather than reacting and doing those things when you think about them, there's time in the week, and it doesn't need to be a lot of time or in a month to deal with those things. There's time set aside already. They're non-negotiable. You've got to do it. Make the time. Do it. Talk about it. Do whatever you've got to do. So it's all about creating consistency. So why is it important? It reduces the need for ad hoc decision making. We know as business owners, we've got a million things coming at us, which makes it really hard to decide. If you've got something in place and you can deal with something at a point in time, you're more likely to deal with that and make a good quality decision about it. Ensures that the staff stay informed and engaged as well. Improves effectiveness and efficiency of communication. So if you've got situations where you're, great to have, and I think we saw this over COVID, the impact of not having people in an office space being able to talk to one another was significant. Like, you missed all those little micro conversations and things. So we don't remove all that. So that's still very important. But for things that can wait or that can be spoken about on a regular basis, it removes a lot of those things and having to, can I just get you 15 minutes here or 20 minutes here? We'll deal with that in our meeting on whatever that is, or however we deal with that. and it maintains consistency as well. So consistency in a business is paramount. Again, that's our view on that. You may well say, as a business owner, I want chaos and anarchy. That's fine if you want to do that. I wouldn't want to be operating in there. That's not my style. But it's that consistency. Human beings like consistency and predictability, and if you can provide them that in their workplace, then they're going to perform a lot better and feel a lot more comfortable, and it just helps with that culture.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's the first time I've seen that picture, Amy. Thank you. So two different types of communication here, just to break it up. There's a proactive communication, which we've been talking about. There is also the reactive communication. So proactive communication is taking initiative, sharing information, seeking feedback, addressing issues before they arise. So they're things we're putting in place, however you want to do that, whether they're meetings, emails, communications, memos, whatever it looks like. There's just a standard thing that goes out on a regular basis that's appropriate for your business that keeps those things being talked about and dealt with. Reactive communication is also required because not everything fits into those perfect boxes. So we need to have space in our rhythm to allow for things that need to be dealt with urgently. And that's reacting to incoming information, waiting for others to initiate communication. We don't necessarily want to be doing that, but addresses issues only when raised or no planning or anticipating. So they're still required, but we don't want all of our communication. But you can see those things there. Reacting to all those things are reactive and are only going to be dealt with when you've got time. Now, we just identified that the second biggest challenge for people who have attended this webinar is we don't have time. So what does that mean? This stuff is not going to happen. That's what it means, because you don't have time to do that.
Absolutely. I think just on that, Joe, that I think because everyone is so time poor, and if we are only using reactive communication model, so we're only reacting when a staff member comes to us, like we're only communicating things when a staff member comes to us asking something, or only addressing issues. You know that there's issues, but you're only addressing them when they become bigger issues. That trying to move from that to proactive is going to be really difficult. And just try and be kind to yourself, communicate with the staff, and just try and make incremental changes. As we said at the start of the webinar, we don't expect you to go and implement all 4 of these things, because it's going to be a lot of work. But just try and pick one thing, or try and pick one, one meeting a week to kind of bring the staff members together. Don't try and go from here to here and expect it not to feel like it's a lot of work for you.
Well, it's a big change. Like if you go from there to there, it's a big change. I think that's great advice, Tam. I think the other thing is, which we gave before, was collaborating with the staff. So you'll know what you want to get out of a communication rhythm, or what you think are the key things. But also talk to the staff about that as well. So what would they like to fit into that? How would they like to communicate? How regularly? And collaborate on that together till you get to a point where you're comfortable. These things will always move. Meeting rhythms, communication rhythms, what you talk about in meetings should evolve. If something's not working or it's not required anymore, then don't do it anymore. Change it, because we've all heard that term of meetings for meeting's sake. We've all been in situations where we have too many meetings or not enough meetings. What a communication rhythm seeks to do is to find that middle ground and try and keep it as close to that as possible as your business grows or changes.
Absolutely.
So why is it essential? It promotes collaboration and teamwork within the team, because we're getting together at certain times. And again, just to clarify on this, I've got clients that we work with in bigger teams that meet up once a week, a couple of times in different teams. I've got clients that meet up once a month, and it's whatever is appropriate or required within that business, because some businesses there's just not a lot of collaboration required. People do their job and that's fine, and there's a certain amount of time put aside. Other businesses, you need to work together as a team, so there's going to need to be more communication about that. A lot of people, anyone that's in a trade business or project-based businesses, understands the need for communication and awareness, and people understanding where they fit into it. Much more communication required in those sort of businesses. Otherwise, the projects fall over, it doesn't work.
Absolutely. And it's really, it springs to mind a conversation I had with a client last week, Joe, that has a weekly meeting. He's in a project-based business, has a weekly meeting set every week to come together and talk about their different projects. And they've been so busy lately that they haven't had that meeting. And they hadn't had it for 3 weeks in a row. And what they tended to find is in that third week, everything was up in the air. The shit hit the fan, to to say it politely, and everything was falling apart because they just hadn't had that, our weekly meeting that they have. And he just said to me, he goes, Tam, I now understand why it's so important that we just stick to that as a non-negotiable. Like, everyone on a Tuesday morning has to come in and do that, and we have to hit these things, like tick off these action items before we can walk out of it. Because if we don't do that, we're just finding that there's inefficiencies and things like that. So it's just, some people again feel like, oh, it's another meeting. But if it's a really purposeful meeting and you're trying to hit particular action points, it's something that is so key to the running of your business, that if you do miss it, then it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great example. And look, it's a very easy thing to do. Again, it's a highlight before, and we could do that poll in every single webinar and any group of business owners. Time will always be a challenge every time. In fact, I'm surprised it wasn't the biggest challenge. It's second only behind having conversations we don't want to have. But the benefit of that 1 hour, if we look at a standard 38, 40-hour work week, that 1 hour can make so much difference to the rest of the week. And the downside of not having it is so big, and your client noticed it within a couple of weeks of how much difference that made. So there are some things that are non-negotiable in businesses, and there's not many of them. That there's a fair bit of flexibility required in order to do that, but we need to know what they are, and we need to hold them very sacred. Yeah. So they increase transparency and trust between staff and management, because people are communicating things all the time. Within our business, and it's only once a month, we do this. We get all our stuff together and we tell them give an update on, generally speaking, across the business. This is what's going on. This is who started with us. This is who's on leave. This is what all the things that, because we're across 4 different locations, we need to do that. You can't possibly. People in Geelong don't know what's going on in Cobram, and they, generally speaking, they don't need to on a day-to-day basis. But getting together and understanding what is happening across the board, it just settles people's minds. And it's okay, yep, I understand what's going on. I'm clear on that. Everyone's on the same page. Let's just get back to what we were doing. So, and it may well be the same. A lot of these things where we're reinforcing messages or building culture, they don't need to be every week, because you get overwhelmed with that message. Once a month, once a quarter, much more effective. Clarity and accountability around roles and expectations. So again, we talked about the roles, but we can provide feedback more regularly on that. Another one of the things we recommend in Rhythms is regular one-on-ones with team members. Again, that might be monthly or quarterly or whatever it looks like, but you're talking to them more regularly. It's not just once a year when they come to talk to us about a pay rise. It's it's regular conversations about what's going on, and that's not about trying to. It can be about their performance, but it might also just be about, are you enjoying it? Well, can we do anything better? Can we support you better? Any of those sort of really meaningful, useful questions.
Also should mention, Joe, that all of this stuff doesn't have to be super formal either. Because I know a lot of business owners that I deal with are like a tradies or, in businesses with guys that just hate meetings and hate coming into the office. So informal meetings or informal just discussions, just having a chat with your staff, if you are just consistently trying to make an effort doing that, well, that's a communication rhythm in itself, isn't it? So just be mindful that we're not saying you need to have like all of this, downtime having meetings for meeting's sake. Just figure out what's going to work for your business, how you can implement some of these things to help with, collaboration with the team or transparency, because that there is going to really, I suppose, make a big difference for you.
And a lot of the time, these people, like the people that we're talking about here, our team members don't even know that they know that this is an issue, right? So they've got things niggling in their subconscious that they don't even consciously think about on a day-to-day basis, but you talking to them on a semi-regular basis or just having a chat to them actually just removes a lot of that noise that's there that they're not even aware of. So they're not going to come to you and tell you that they've got things in their subconscious. They don't know they're there. So those conversations will help with a lot of that. And what we see is that people that talk to their staff a lot, and when I say a lot, more regularly than I'm saying more regularly than once a year in a discussion other than just a day-to-day thing, they're the ones that retain good staff. They retain the staff. The staff are comfortable and they're understanding exactly what they need to do, and they just go and do it. That's they spend their energy doing what they need to do, not thinking about it. Absolutely. So engagement and morale increases because, again, we're more engaged. We understand what's going on, along with the business goals and bigger picture. So they get to see, okay, well, if we do this, then this happens. If we do that, this happens. And they're involved in that. And again, they don't have to be super involved and really clear, but it's just high level. And if they want to know more information and they're interested, they'll generally come and ask you about that because if you've opened the door by telling them. Change management as well gives you a really great way to nominate leaders and people to run with that, and also provide updates on the way through. Feedback and growth for staff as well. So it just gives you that opportunity to be able to do that. One of the things we're going to talk about, or we're going to offer after this, is to have a chat about what your communication in your business might look like. So we're talking about this very generally at the moment, but we will talk about it at the end. We're going to provide some time or an offer for you to give us a call and run through, and for us to provide some information as to what it might look like in a bit more detail for your business. Again, these are some of the examples. So types, formal meetings, non-formal communication like emails, reports to staff, informal stuff, having brekkie with them, a coffee, Friday night drinks, lunches. It can be anything. Tam said before, it doesn't need to be formal. It doesn't at all. The staff don't even need to know that know about some of the rhythm. That may well just be in your calendar for you to do, but it might appear random to the staff. It doesn't need to be booked into their calendar, or they may not even have a calendar. So just a phone call or can I catch you for 5 to have a chat or whatever? It's formal for you. You know you need to do it, but the staff, it's just part of their day. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be known and organised across the whole organisation. Regularity and style different for the type of business. Recognise the achievements of the staff. We mentioned before, one of the things we see a lot is, and again, we focus on it as humans, negatives as opposed to positives. Focus on the achievements. If they've done something well, tell them that they've done something well. Tailor meetings to your needs. No one likes meetings for the sake of it. We said that before. Make them efficient, engaging, informative, and provide opportunity for feedback. If you get the feeling you're not getting what you need from the meeting, talk to the staff. Be open about that. Okay, I don't feel like we're getting what we need here, or talk to one of us. I feel like we need to tweak it. Okay, tweak it. Don't leave it there. Keep evolving.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is ask the staff what they want to get out of it too. So, if you've got a weekly meeting, and it might be like a weekly toolbox or a weekly workflow type of meeting, ask the staff, are you getting from me what you want out of this meeting? Is this hitting everyone's, what everyone needs to fulfill their job roles? Asking the staff that question. Quite often as business owners, we forget to collaborate with our staff, but they generally have some really good ideas, and they see things through different eyes, having a different level of the business that they're based in. Some things, you can take with a bit of a grain of salt and go, okay, well, yeah, don't necessarily like that, but it might actually be a good idea. So opening that question up to the staff is, is this, do you think we need to meet this often? Do you think we need to meet more often? What do you think we need to be covering in these meetings? And getting that feedback from them, I think, would be really beneficial for you, particularly if you don't have much of a communication rhythm at the moment. Best thing for you to do is ask the staff what they feel like they need.
Yeah. I think as one point we haven't got an here, but you raised it before, Tam, less is more. Start with less, build it up. So Don't start with this big complex thing. Just do one thing first. That's it.
Absolutely.
Rodney, we just got your message there. That's fine, mate. Rodney's just said his battery's going flat. You'll get a copy of the presentation afterwards and the recording, so have a look then.
No worries. All right. So KPIs, one of my favorites, only because Joe and I are accountants and we love this stuff. So KPIs and measurement tools have to be closely linked to your roles and responsibilities, as well as that strategic outcomes that you want from your business. So that step one that we were talking about, what do you want your business to look like? Your KPIs, which is how you're going to measure everything, has to be closely linked to both those and the responsibilities. So and that's because it allows you to be able to, in the different communication rhythms, even if it's a report that gets emailed out, it just helps people know where they're at against their job roles. Business owners and key staff need to know how the KPIs or the direction of the business is linked to the staff KPIs. So that's more at a high level, but it provides very clear expectations. So what every business and the KPIs or measurement tools that you put into place is going to be different. Every industry has their, the top types of KPIs for each industry. So we've just added 2 different ones down here for some of the industries that we knew people were coming from today. So trade-based businesses are going to look at productive hours and job profitability. So they're 2 big ones that you'd need to focus on. There's more. Again, these are just the top 2. Hospitality, so average customer spend and the wages as a percentage of turnover. Manufacturing, so productive hours and inventory or WIP levels. Retail businesses, so average spend for clients and the stock turnover is a really important KPI, and as is the importance of understanding lead or lag indicators. So lead indicators are forward-looking performance measurement metrics that provide early insights into the future performance of the business. So they're very proactive in nature and can be things influenced by the business at the moment. So these include things such as the number of quotes, sales calls, leads, people through the door on any given day, the number of hours that you're spending in training and development of staff, customer satisfaction results, feedback or social media engagement, as well as employee engagement. So some of these are things that a lot of businesses don't track at the moment, but these are the things that help you, I suppose, be proactive and know that there might be a little bit of a lull coming. So if, for instance, the number of quotes the number of leads or sales calls that you're getting starts to halve, you can guarantee that once you're through the workload that you're going to have less work. So if you know that now and you can kind of anticipate that bit of a slow drop off for in the next 3 months, we can start putting things in place now. So these are why it's really important to be focusing on these as well. Then we have lag indicators. So these are retrospective performance measurements that provide historical view of the business performance. So accountants very much focus on lag indicators. So they're reactive in nature. They evaluate the success of strategic actions that have already taken place. So things such as profit and losses, cash flows, return on investments, employee or customer retention rate. So if you're getting repeat business or employees are starting to turn over, that's already retrospective of things that have gone wrong in the past. Inventory and WIP levels and productivity are also lag indicators. So why should your KPIs include both lead and lag indicators? So that there is a balanced view of the business that considers both what's going on at the moment as well as the future possibilities. It's very much about proactive performance management. So the staff as well as yourself are going to be focused not only on what's happened in the past, but also what can happen in the future and have that bit more of a balanced approach. It can be aligned to the strategic plan of your business, but it's very much about highlighting those early warning systems that I was talking about when things aren't right. And in such an unstable economy at the moment, those lead indicators are probably going to be the things that you should be looking at now, more so than what you have in the past. Ooh.
Right.
Sorry,
Tam, you got this one, or was it?
Yeah. No. Sorry, I was just a bit lost in my slides. So what is good culture in business? So good culture, so we've spoken about the 4 key pillars of performance, but on the other end of the spectrum is providing that good culture to your staff. So good culture requires an intentional effort and commitment from the leaders within a business. So you really have to nurture that culture all the time. So as a business owner, you need to lead by example. You need to know what you want the culture to feel like. A lot of, business owners want it to have like a family feel. So you need to know what you want from your culture and then lead by example. Tailor things to your business and industry. So again, trade-based businesses might be that little bit more informal with their communication rhythm and have, Friday morning brekkies. One of my tradies do have egg and bacon rolls. Some of them do Friday night beers. Some of them do like a lunch, Friday afternoon lunch or something like that. Tailor it to the feel that you want in your business and what's relevant to your industry and the staff that you have. Always have that open door and communicate with your staff and actually try and engage with them. So don't be that boss that sits in the corner and doesn't, or sits in his office and doesn't engage and try and develop a relationship with the staff. Have fun along the way. Recognize and reward when things go right. Might even be, a cake for someone's birthday. It might be a superstar that is coming through the ranks, or someone does something really good. Recognize that, because it helps build that positive culture. Collaborate and work as a team when things don't go right. So how, come together as a team and say, well, that project didn't go right, or that, stock line didn't sell. What can we do to improve things? Promote a good work-life balance with your staff. I suppose since COVID, this has really, really changed, and a lot of staff members are looking for a lot more flexibility than what they were beforehand, and a lot more of that work-life balance, particularly with the younger generation coming through. That is like the number one thing that they're wanting. So you have to, I suppose, pivot and evolve in business with the types of staff that you can attract and try and retain as to what might work for you in your industry, because every industry is different with that. Empower employees to step up. So let them, give them a bit of rope and let them have some autonomy to do things, and always seek feedback and act on it. So I think, one thing Joe and I were talking about last night is, if you start implementing some of these things, and this is why we're saying to focus on maybe one thing at a time, because if you start implementing some of these things and you get feedback from the staff and you do 70% of it, but then so you gather all this information and then you do nothing, and you don't do anything, or you don't finish that process off, that's actually going to be more damaging to your business, because the staff are going to feel like they've been heard, and they've been, like they're getting somewhere. And then if you don't actually follow through or continue to have conversations or continue to do whatever you've implemented, it's actually going to be more damage to your culture. So just be really mindful of that. So what to do if things go wrong? So address issues when they arise so they don't become big, hard conversations. They're more these little pick-me-up and corrective conversations. So again, if you're having more regular discussions, staff know where they're at, they know what's required, and there's clear expectations. It's just a little bit of a like, oh, hey, mate, what happened here? Why didn't that go right? It's not that you've got this big build-up of things over time that it doesn't become a hard conversation. It's just a little, check-in conversation saying, oh, maybe next time do that this way or something like that. Make the conversation more about the data and not about the person, which is much easier when you're dealing with family and friends. But you've got to have those things in place to be able to make it about the data. So it might be that someone's productivity is no good, but without them knowing that and without having some reports around that, you can't really have a conversation about it. Use open communication to reduce surprises and unexpected events. Actively listen to staff when they raise issues and try and collaborate with them for solutions. So make sure that you take the chance to implement when there's a solution there and when they're coming to you with things. Document discussions for clarity and obviously risk mitigation. You want to always be documenting your discussions with staff. Follow up on conversations and ensure that things are followed through. So as business advisors, we see a lot of chats happening with staff, but not a lot of action. And that's kind of what we were saying before. You don't want to do 70% of the hard work and have that conversation and then not actually take any action afterwards. All right, so we've got a bit of a poll today of those strategies, those 4 key pillars that we've kind of put into place. If you guys go and answer that, so they are knowing what you want, roles and responsibilities, KPI and measurement tools, and communication rhythm.
I'm not saying communication rhythm on there.
Oh, no, I'm not. I don't know what's happened with that one. That's okay. Interestingly enough, a lot of people are selecting the knowing what you want, and it's something as a business owner we get so busy, so busy working in the business. This is one of those things, working on the business. What do you want the business to look like? So that's really, really interesting.
I think a lot of the time, whilst it's a obvious one, maybe when we've spoken about it, it's something people realise that it's very difficult to create clear expectations if you don't know what those expectations are yourself.
Absolutely.
Always the place to start is with you. Okay.
100%.
So a bit of an even split across those. I'm not sure where communication rhythm would have fit in. I'm assuming pretty well every client we implement that with, it makes a pretty immediate difference. So I'm assuming if that had been an option, that would have been relatively highly selected as well. But it looks like there's a bit of a spread across the board there. But as Tam said, knowing what you want, starting there, again, happy to have that conversation. Now, I'm mindful of the time. So what we're going to do is in our chat box, we're going to, our question. We'll use our question time now. We'll run a couple of minutes over, but please feel free to, while I'm running through this case study, if you have any questions, put them in there and we'll attempt to answer them. And we'll be relatively quick with this manufacturing client that we're going to talk about here. Challenges that we have with this. So this is a family manufacturing business, a couple of generations, actually a 3-generation business, high value architectural projects, high quality, low volume turnover, really large homes that they're working on. So challenges were around lack of reporting, insufficient data to make decisions, poor communication with the leadership within the leadership team, and overlap of confusion in roles within that as well. Implementation. So what did we do with this? We revisited their business vision and values and clarified their why and what they were doing. We reviewed their current roles within the leadership team and as a group and defined their roles clearly and their communication lines and who spoke with what and how they communicated that. Define KPIs and measurement tools to accurately tell us about what was going on week to week. So we knew exactly what was going on. We weren't guessing and making assumptions and things. We had actual data to be able to make those decisions. And then we set weekly meetings to report and run through KPIs and discuss actions to implement to improve. And it was a forum for updates and discussion as well. So that's a family that, great people, really good business, really solid grown business already. It's grown to this size. They're just having challenges sort of adapting to working together, had different ideas about things, and everyone trying to do the best thing for the business, but it just wasn't working. So the outcome with putting those things in place was that the leadership team were clear on their roles in the business and used weekly communication to remove a lot of the white noise from the week. So they were doing what they needed to do. They were all on board with roles and individuals' responsibilities, help with the internal communication and satisfaction internally, ability to make management decisions based on those trends, allowed for increasing price and more clarity on the jobs. Now, hard numbers, that added $600,000 to the bottom line first year. So fair bit of difference. So give you an idea, they're turning over about $4 million. That added 600,000 on with that change and awareness in that. They couldn't make that decision without that clarity and without that regular communication, because it was just too big of a jump, and they were just arguing and running around in circles. More time and space to look at medium to long-term goals and lift the eyes a little bit, because they weren't getting caught down in the detail. There wasn't that concern about or that white noise we spoke about earlier. And more enjoyment overall within the leadership group led to significant improvement in the culture and positive feedback from the manufacturing team. So there's about 6 people in the leadership team, 4 of which are a family member that are directly related to each other. There's about 25 in the manufacturing team, and they all, the ones that will communicate it, were all very, very happy that the leadership team was very surprised how much impact it had, that them getting along better made a big difference to the manufacturing team and the culture and their day-to-day. And again, that comes back to what I was talking about earlier around this. The manufacturing team didn't even know that was an issue. It's a subconscious thing, but then now the leadership team is communicating better and understand each other better. They're in a position where, okay, well, this is a lot more enjoyable now. Didn't even know it was an issue, but it certainly improved performance. And that, again, that probably just added further to their increase in their GP, because people are doing their job better. That's just how it works.
Absolutely. So in summary, we want you to remember the 4 key pillars to improve staff performance. Know what you want, document it, communicate it, and measure it. Focus on creating that good culture, and remember that you need to be intentional in creating that. Move up and down the scales as required by your business. Address things head on before they become big issues. So have those littler conversations. It's much easier than having a hard conversation. And collaboration with staff is key. So next step. So Joe and I are happy to have a chat to anyone that attended today to figure out how you could implement some of these in your business in a bit of a one-on-one. If you would like to join, we're just about to open the doors to our new PTP Biz IQ session. So you would have heard us talk about the Growth Hub or seen some things about that in the past. This is a Growth Hub. It's just rebranded, and we're calling it PTP Biz IQ. It's a group of business owners that come together once a quarter to talk about challenges, for us to present some information to, a bit like this, but it's a lot more interactive, and you get to, I suppose, talk about some of the really big challenges that you're having in business, and everyone gets to kind of collaborate to give their wealth of knowledge from being in business for a number of years to help solve those issues. Because we all know that we're not alone in business, but sometimes we do feel like that. So feel free, if you'd like to know some more about the PTP Biz IQ that's starting in the next couple of months, to send us an email. Otherwise, if there's any questions, we will answer those now. Please feel free to add any to the chat box if you've got.
I'm assuming, given we asked for them before, there's probably not.
Yes.
So I'm assuming those we've covered off enough, or people will touch base with us to ask any questions or to give us any feedback. More than happy to take that on. Just get in touch via the office or email or however you like. We will send a follow-up email, as we said. We'll provide more detail around what that one-on-one looks like. And if you want to know anything about BizIQ, please reach out about that as well, and we'll give you some more info. There'll be some more stuff coming out about that in the coming weeks anyway, so keep an eye out for that as well. I think that's it. We've run a little bit over time, so apologies for that. But thanks again for giving up your time this Wednesday afternoon and coming along and listening to us. Please reach out if you need anything. Thanks to Amy again in the background for mucking around and has done a lot of work on the presentation and making it look like it does. If Tam and I did it, it would be, or certainly if I did it, it would be a lot more PowerPointy and accounting looking. So thanks, Amy. And we'll catch you all at our next webinar in September.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. See you later.